Picture this. You are standing in front of an elevator. The doors slide open. You step inside, press your floor, and wait. But the doors don't close. You press the button again. Nothing. So you do something strange, something you can't quite explain. You step outside, peer down the hallway in both directions, then step back in. You press every button on the panel. You flatten yourself against the wall. You wave your hands in the air like you're trying to shake something off. And then, you walk out and disappear around the corner. Forever. That footage is real. It was captured on January 31st, 2013, at the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. The young woman in that elevator was 21-year-old Elisa Lam. She was never seen alive again. And what investigators found 19 days later, inside the hotel's rooftop water tank, would horrify the world. To understand what happened to Elisa Lam, you first need to understand who she was. Not the mystery, not the footage, not the theories that would later spiral across the internet like wildfire. You need to understand the girl. Elisa Lam is born on April 30th, 1991, in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Her parents, David and Yino Lam, are immigrants from Hong Kong who have built a quiet, respectable life in Canada. They run a restaurant. They work hard. They raise their daughter to be bright, curious, and driven. And Elisa is all of those things. She is a student at the University of British Columbia, studying sociology. She is funny in a dry, self-aware way that comes through in every line she writes online. She is a voracious reader, the kind of person who finishes a book and immediately needs to talk about it with someone, anyone. She loves fashion. She loves photography. She loves the idea of traveling alone, of being independent, of seeing America for the first time as a solo young woman stepping into the world. She runs a Tumblr blog. If you had followed her online in 2012, you would have seen a young woman who is deeply introspective, openly struggling with mental health, and entirely unafraid to be honest about it. She writes about her bipolar disorder with a frankness that is both brave and heartbreaking. She writes about the bad days, the days when getting out of bed feels like climbing a mountain. She writes about the good days too, the days when the world feels electric and full of possibility. She is not a tragic figure. She is a person, a real, complicated, hopeful person who wants nothing more than to experience life on her own terms. In late January 2013, Elisa embarks on what she has planned as a solo tour of the West Coast of the United States. She visits San Diego. She visits Santa Cruz. She posts photos on her blog, sunlight through trees, the curve of a coastline, her own reflection in a shop window. She is happy, or at least, she looks happy. She sounds happy. Her last planned stop before heading home to Vancouver is Los Angeles. She books a room at the Cecil Hotel. And here is the first thing you need to file away in the back of your mind, a detail that will matter later. Elisa doesn't just stumble onto the Cecil Hotel randomly. She finds it online. It is marketed as budget-friendly, centrally located, and perfectly adequate for a young backpacker on a solo trip. What the listing doesn't tell her, what most guests don't know when they check in, is the history buried inside those walls. But we'll get to that. Elisa checks into the Cecil Hotel on January 26, 2013. She is seen in the lobby. She smiles at the front desk staff. She takes the elevator up to her floor. For the first few days, everything seems fine. She is a polite, quiet guest. She texts her parents. She posts to her blog. She is, by all accounts, simply a young woman on vacation in a city that feels too big and too bright and impossibly alive. And then, somewhere in the gap between January 31st and the days that follow, Elisa Lam vanishes. Her parents don't hear from her. Her texts go unanswered. Her blog goes silent. And by February 1st, her family is calling the hotel. Something is wrong. They know it. A parent always knows. But the question that will consume investigators, internet sleuths, and millions of strangers around the world isn't just where Elisa went. The question, the one that will keep people awake at night for years, is how. How does a young woman disappear inside a busy downtown hotel without a single person seeing where she went? The answer is waiting on a rooftop, and it is more disturbing than anyone is prepared for. To understand what happens next, we need to take you back to the Cecil Hotel itself. Because the Cecil is not just a building. It is, in many ways, a living record of human despair. The hotel opens in 1924 at 640 South Main Street in downtown Los Angeles, in a neighborhood that will come to be known as Skid Row. In its early years, it is an elegant place. Marble floors, a grand lobby, 14 stories of ambition rising above the city. But Los Angeles changes around it. The neighborhood deteriorates. The clientele shifts. By the mid-20th century, the Cecil is no longer a destination. It is a last resort. The list of deaths that occur inside the Cecil Hotel over the decades is staggering. Guests check in and never check out. Multiple suicides. At least one murder. In the 1980s, serial killer Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, stays at the Cecil while terrorizing Los Angeles. He pays $14 a night. He comes home to wash the blood off his hands. Another serial killer, Jack Unterweger, stays there in 1991 while murdering 3 women in the city. The hotel absorbs all of it. It keeps its doors open. It keeps taking guests. By 2013, the Cecil has rebranded the upper floors under the name Stay on Main, a trendy, hostel-style accommodation designed to attract young budget travelers. It is this version of the hotel that Elisa finds online. It is this version she books. What she does not know, what nobody warns her, is that the lobby she walks through, the elevator she rides, the hallways she navigates, are all soaked in a century of tragedy. Now, January 31st, 2013. It is late evening. The hotel is quiet in the way that old buildings get quiet at night. Not silent, but humming with a low, private energy. The elevator on the 14th floor is captured on the hotel's security camera. The footage is grainy, black and white, time-stamped. Elisa steps inside. She is wearing a red hoodie, dark pants, and sandals. Her dark hair falls around her face. She presses a button. She waits. The doors do not close. What happens next, in the 2 minutes and 57 seconds of footage that will be watched by tens of millions of people, defies easy explanation. She steps out of the elevator and looks both ways down the hallway, slowly, cautiously, like she is checking to see if someone is there. She steps back inside. She presses multiple buttons. She stands against the wall to the right of the door. She leans out and looks down the hall again. She steps fully outside and peers around the edge of the elevator frame. She steps back in. She gestures with her hands, fluid, expressive movements, like she is talking to someone the camera cannot see. She steps outside again, walks a few paces down the hall, and then, gone. She walks out of frame and disappears. The elevator doors, which have been stuck open this entire time, finally close. The elevator begins to move on its own, stopping at multiple floors, as if someone pressed each button before returning to where it started. Elisa is never seen on camera again. The footage is so strange, so unsettling, so impossible to categorize that when it is released by the Los Angeles Police Department weeks later as a plea for public information, it does not just go viral, it fractures the internet. People watch it on loop. They screenshot frames. They zoom in on shadows. They build timelines and theories and entire Reddit threads dedicated to a single question. What was she doing? Was she hiding from someone? Was she playing a game? Was she experiencing a mental health episode? Was something or someone in that hallway with her? Nobody knows. And while the world watches that footage and debates, somewhere above the city, on the rooftop of the Cecil Hotel, the answer is slowly, silently decomposing. The missing persons investigation begins almost immediately. Elisa's parents file a report with the Los Angeles Police Department. Detectives arrive at the Cecil. They review security footage. They question staff. They search the hotel room where Elisa had been staying. Here is where things get complicated in a way that will haunt this case for years. Elisa had originally been assigned to a shared dormitory-style room, the kind that the Stay on Main floors offer to backpackers on a budget. But within the first day or two of her stay, Her roommates complain to management. They say Elisa is acting strangely, erratically. Her behavior is making them uncomfortable. Hotel staff move Elisa to a private room. Nobody, not the roommates, not the staff, not the official reports, ever fully details what acting strangely means. It is one of the open questions that will feed speculation for years. What was she doing that was strange enough to get her moved, but not strange enough for anyone to call for help? Police search the hotel. They bring in dogs. They check stairwells, storage rooms, every inch of the building that guests have access to, and some they don't. They find nothing. Elisa is not in the building, or at least, that is what they believe. Meanwhile, the investigation goes public. The LAPD releases information about Elisa's disappearance. Her family travels from Vancouver to Los Angeles. They speak to the press with the hollow-eyed devastation of people who are still hoping but are beginning to understand, in the way families always do before anyone tells them, that hope has a limit. The internet finds the story. People begin searching on their own. A true crime blogger posts about it. Someone on Reddit starts a thread. The case spreads. And when the LAPD releases the elevator footage on February 14th, Valentine's Day, the entire world stops and watches. The theories come fast and furious. Some people say Elisa is playing the elevator game, an internet urban legend that supposedly opens a portal to another dimension. Some say she is being chased by an unseen assailant. Some point to the way the elevator doors malfunction and call it evidence of tampering. Some focus on her hands, her gestures, and say she is communicating in a code or responding to a hallucination. Amateur sleuths dig into everything. They find her Tumblr. They read her posts about bipolar disorder and feel, uncomfortably, that they understand something about her mental state. They cross-reference her blog posts with the dates of her disappearance. They map the hotel's layout from Google Earth. And then someone notices something that nobody at the Cecil Hotel seems to have thought to check in 19 days of searching. Pause. The guests on the lower floors have been complaining about the water. It comes out of the taps dark. It has a strange smell. The pressure is low. Several guests have been showering in it, drinking it, brushing their teeth with it, for days. A hotel maintenance worker is sent to the roof to check the water tanks. There are 4 large, black cylindrical tanks on the roof of the Cecil Hotel. They are not easy to access. The roof itself requires a key, and the tanks themselves are covered with heavy metal lids. The maintenance worker climbs a metal ladder on the side of the nearest tank. He lifts the lid. He finds Elisa Lam. She is floating face up inside the tank. She is fully clothed, still wearing the red hoodie, the dark pants, the sandals from the elevator footage 19 days earlier. Her personal belongings, her room key, her phone, her clothing she had been wearing the day she disappeared, are floating in the water beside her. It is February 19th, 2013. Elisa has been in that tank for approximately 3 weeks. The world is about to learn something devastating, and investigators are about to confront a question that has no clean answer. The discovery of Elisa Lam's body inside the rooftop water tank of the Cecil Hotel does not solve the mystery. In many ways, it deepens it. Because now investigators have to answer a question that sounds simple, but is, in fact, extraordinarily complicated. How did she get in there? Let's walk through the logistics. The roof of the Cecil Hotel is accessed through a door that is, according to the hotel, alarmed. Opening it triggers an alert. Hotel staff say that alarm worked on the night Elisa disappeared. No alarm was triggered. No one went through that door, except someone did. The water tanks themselves are large, roughly 8 feet tall and approximately 4 feet in diameter. They are accessed by climbing a metal ladder bolted to the outside of each tank and then lifting a heavy metal lid at the top. The lid, according to investigators who examine it, is not locked, but it is heavy. It would require strength to lift and would be almost impossible to close from the inside. And here is what investigators cannot explain. What becomes the fault line at the center of this entire case? There is no clear way for Elisa Lam to have gotten into that tank and closed the lid behind her. If someone put her there, if another person is responsible, there should be evidence. Signs of a struggle. DNA. Fingerprints on the lid. Security footage of someone accessing the roof. There is none. Or rather, there is frustratingly, inexplicably little. If she got there herself, if she climbed the ladder, opened the lid, lowered herself into the tank, and the lid somehow fell shut, that raises its own set of impossible questions. Why? How does a person voluntarily climb into a rooftop water tank? And why does the roof alarm show no record of being triggered? The LAPD begins working with the coroner's office. Toxicology tests are ordered. The hotel is placed under intense scrutiny. The media is outside every day. And then investigators begin to look more carefully at Elisa's mental health history. Pause. This is where the case becomes not just a mystery, but a conversation about something much harder. The way mental illness moves through a person's life like a current, not always visible from the surface. Elisa has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. She is on medication, multiple medications, in fact, prescribed to manage her condition. When the toxicology results come back, they show that the levels of her medications in her bloodstream are abnormal. Not dangerously high, but not what they should be for someone who is taking them consistently as prescribed. The medications included antidepressants, an antipsychotic, and a mood stabilizer. Whether she had been taking them regularly during her trip, whether the stress of solo travel, the sleep disruption, the unfamiliar environment of the Cecil Hotel had disrupted her system, none of that can be answered with certainty. What investigators note is this. In the weeks before her death, Elisa's Tumblr posts show signs of elevated mood, high energy, racing thoughts, grandiose plans. These are, in clinical terms, potential indicators of a manic or hypomanic episode. But, and this is important, they are also just the posts of a young woman who is excited about traveling for the first time. The line between joy and mania is not always visible from the outside. There is one more detail, one that the internet latches onto with a fervor that borders on obsession, and that points, depending on how you look at it, either towards something sinister or towards something desperately sad. A tuberculosis outbreak occurs in Skid Row in early 2013. The test used to detect the outbreak is called Elisa, the same name, Elisa Lam. The internet sees this and erupts. Conspiracy theories bloom overnight. Some say it cannot be coincidence. Some say Elisa was involved in some kind of biological event. Some say the outbreak, the hotel, the name, it is all connected. It is not. The test was developed decades earlier and named using standard scientific nomenclature. The connection is coincidence, eerie, unsettling, meaningless coincidence. But in a case already saturated with the strange and inexplicable, even coincidence feels like a clue. The real breakthrough, or what passes for one, is still coming. And it will not come from conspiracy theories. It will come from the coroner's report. On June 21, 2013, the Los Angeles County Coroner releases the official ruling on Elisa Lam's cause and manner of death. Cause of death, accidental drowning. Manner of death, accident. The coroner's office finds no evidence of trauma to Elisa's body, no signs of physical struggle, no defensive wounds, no indication that another person harmed her. The toxicology results, while showing irregular medication levels, do not indicate an overdose. There are no drugs or alcohol in her system beyond her prescribed medications. The official conclusion is that Elisa Lam, in the early morning hours of February 1st, 2013, made her way to the roof of the Cecil Hotel, accessed the water tank, and drowned. The manner is ruled accidental, with the contributing factor being her bipolar disorder and the possible effects of a destabilized mental state. The report is thorough. The reasoning is supported by evidence, and it satisfies almost no one. Here's why. The coroner's ruling answers the how, drowning, but still cannot fully explain the sequence of events that led to the water tank. It cannot explain the roof door alarm discrepancy. It cannot fully explain the elevator footage, which remains, to this day, one of the strangest pieces of surveillance video ever made public. The LAPD closes the investigation. The case is officially resolved. but unofficially. On the internet, in the true crime community, among the millions of people who watched that elevator footage on loop and felt, in their bones, that something did not add up, the case is never really closed. Investigators do address some of the specific questions that have been circulating. The roof door, it turns out, may not have been as reliably alarmed as the hotel initially claimed. There are indications the system had malfunctions. The weight of the tank lid is consistent with someone being able to lift it from outside. Getting out from inside would be extremely difficult, but getting in is possible. The elevator footage, forensic analysts eventually note, shows behavior that is consistent with a person experiencing a psychotic or dissociative episode. The gestures, the looking, the pressing of buttons, the hiding against the wall. These are not the actions of someone playing a game or signaling to another person. They are, according to mental health professionals who review the footage publicly, the actions of someone whose perception of reality may be severely disrupted in that moment. Remember what was said at the beginning of this story about Elisa's blog post showing high energy in the days before her death. Remember the irregular medication levels. Remember that she had been moved from her dormitory room because of behavior her roommates found strange and alarming. Hold all of that together and a picture begins to form. Not a picture of foul play, but a picture of a young woman in the grip of a mental health crisis, alone in a strange city, in a hotel with no one looking out for her. That picture is not less tragic. In some ways, it is more. Because the question it raises, the one that doesn't go away, is not what happened to Elisa Lam. The question is, who failed her? And how many people could have helped her and didn't? In the years since Elisa Lam's death, her story has taken on a life she never could have imagined. Her Tumblr blog, the one she maintained with such raw honesty and vulnerability, remains online. People still visit it. They leave comments. They send her posts into the notes. Years later, the way you might leave flowers at a grave. The blog has become a kind of digital memorial, a record of a real person who existed, who felt things deeply, who was trying to figure out her life the same way everyone is trying to figure out theirs. Netflix releases a 4-part documentary series about her case in 2021. Crime Scene. The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel becomes one of the most watched true crime documentaries on the platform. It brings the story to a new generation of viewers. It also, it must be said, reignites the conspiracy theories, spending significant time on the internet speculation before circling back to the official conclusion. Elisa's family, who have remained largely private through all of it, files a wrongful death lawsuit against the Cecil Hotel. They argue that the hotel failed in its duty of care, that a young woman with a known mental health condition should have been better supported, better monitored, better protected. The lawsuit is settled. The terms are confidential. The Cecil Hotel itself undergoes a major renovation. In 2021, hotelier Richard Bourne purchases the building with plans to convert the upper floors into affordable housing while maintaining the lower floors as a hotel. For a period, the hotel closes entirely. Whether it will ever fully shed its history is unclear. In the elevator footage, that 2 minutes and 57 seconds of grainy black and white that has been watched more than any other piece of security footage in history, remains on YouTube. It is still there. You can watch it right now. And if you do, try to watch it not as a mystery to be solved, but as a document of a human being in distress. Try to see not the strangeness, but the fear. Try to see Elisa, not the theory, not the meme, not the jumping-off point for a conspiracy, but the person. A 21-year-old woman from Vancouver who loved books and fashion and writing honestly about her inner life. Who was traveling alone for the first time and was excited about it. Who had bipolar disorder and was trying, the way millions of people try every day, to live fully in spite of it. Who checked into a hotel that had been consuming people for nearly a century, in a city that is very good at making individuals invisible, and who needed help that never came. The official story ends with an accidental drowning. But the real story, the one that matters, ends with a question that outlives the investigation, the documentary, the lawsuits, and the internet threads. What do we owe to people who are struggling in ways we can see, if we choose to look? Elisa Lam wrote on her Tumblr, not long before she died, "I don't want to retreat from the world. I want to be part of it." She was part of it. She still is. And maybe that's the thing about cases like hers that keep us up at night. Not the mystery, but the mirror. The uncomfortable recognition that the systems meant to catch people when they fall are full of gaps. That a young woman can be visibly, documentably struggling and still slip through. That a hotel can have a century of bodies in its walls and still be listed on a travel website without a single warning. Elisa Lam wanted to see the world. She wanted to be independent and brave and alive in the fullest sense of the word. She deserved the chance to do all of that. She deserved someone, somewhere along the way, to see her struggling and do something about it. The Cecil Hotel still stands at 640 South Main Street in Los Angeles. The water tanks are still on the roof. And Elisa Lam's blog is still there, waiting if you want to read it. Not to solve a mystery, just to know her. If this story stayed with you, you know what to do.